Yeah, hi, good morning. Welcome to the EPIC Symposium session. The title of our breakout session is The Role of Technology in Drought-Proofing California's Food and Agriculture Sector. My name is Deepika Joshi. I'm a senior environmental scientist with California Department of Food and Agriculture, and I will be the moderator for this session today. Climate change is underway and California is experiencing its impacts. And one of the major impacts that faces us are frequent drought conditions. These conditions are expected to become the norm under climate change, and they present a very significant challenge for our industries and agricultural businesses. Not only would there be projected water shortages, but there's also the additional challenge of increasing costs to treat and discharge wastewater that results from some of our business operations. And in response, industrial and ag customers are turning to more innovative solutions that help save energy, save water, and technologies that improve the resiliency of their businesses. And today on our session, we have 4 EPIC awardees who will be speaking about their projects that aim to enable water efficiency and create cost-friendly options to recycle wastewater for future uses. So very quickly, I would go ahead and introduce each one of our speakers here today. Kolash, he's the founder of Fruition Sciences, and this company offers tools to manage vineyard data and help both wine growers as well as winemakers to make decisions that can lead to better plant health and ultimately delicious wine. So welcome, Thibaut. You're muted.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay, thank you for the kind introduction. I have a presentation. So essentially, we come here to illustrate how it is possible to save some water in the world of agriculture, taking viticulture as an example. And the premise of our work is based on the fact that traditional irrigation almost systematically means over-irrigation. What I mean by traditional irrigation practice is something where the water application obeys a weekly schedule, and sometimes based on the climate, we may increase the frequency of irrigation and have 2 irrigations per week instead of 1. So fixed schedule, some flexibility in terms of having a higher irrigation frequency, but that means also more often smaller water volume. But what traditional irrigation does not explain is how to answer the following questions that wine growers in the global warming scheme may ask themselves. Questions such as, can I skip 1 week of irrigation this week? Should I apply water less frequently? How long is the effect duration after my irrigation was applied? And another thing that traditional does not incorporate is plant-based metrics. There is no way with traditional irrigation to know if the plant really needs water when it is applied. On top of that, over-irrigation can be bad for plants. The plant becomes more vulnerable to drought when it is over-irrigated. Actually, this leads to production decline, meaning less quality, less quantity. In fact, the more water you give to the plant, the more water it needs. This is what I call the junkie effect. But technically speaking, over-irrigation means a lower resistance to drought, which translates into plants more vulnerable to collapse when over-irrigating. So my teamwork was actually set in that paradigm. We, since 2008, have countries like Australia, Chile, US, Israel using our approach. Systematically, our customers reported up to 60% of water savings with increase in quality and yield. So this is how the EPIC project started. We joined forces to really quantify the amount of energy and water savings when our plant-aware irrigation technique is implemented in viticulture. And we also wanted to validate the quantity of grapes produced and making sure that the quality of the grapes was still good by monitoring the maturation. So what we did was setting in different wine growing regions across California, such as Livermore, Carneros, or Napa. Overall, the experiment was spread over 300 acres, and we had a split treatment where we compared in the same vineyards, side to side, traditional irrigation with the hypothesis that it was leading to over irrigation versus our 360 VT plant-aware irrigation, where we effectively only irrigated when the plant needed it. So I have explained what the traditional irrigation is based on: weather, weekly schedule, and a starting point of irrigation based on history. On the other side, our 360 plant-aware irrigation technique is based on plant sensors that we install on the plant that allow us to monitor continuously the water use. Those are called sap flow sensors. And then it's very simple. If the flow of water leaving the plant is good, there is no need to irrigate. We had a third-party evaluation for water and energy savings. And on the side, we monitored the yield and fruit data to make sure that sugar accumulation was happening properly. At the end, we are very happy to share with you the results because we maintain the same claim. We had on average 61% of water savings, so a little bit over 325,000 of gallons per acre. And in terms of energy savings, we were a little bit under 200 kilowatt per acre. So on top of that, we even improved the yield up to 15% in some cases. So more fruit was produced when we applied less water. But remember, that's a carryover effect of the junkie effect. Plants are becoming less vulnerable to collapse when less irrigated. So I was really happy to be able to demonstrate those results in a very scientific framework to now hopefully spread this technique, because we can no longer afford to apply traditional irrigation, in my opinion. So thank you.
And finally, the question for Thibaut is more related to something that we're hearing more and more with software-based services and how they can help someone make better decisions. The other question is, how do they lead to behavior change for folks who are actually using them? And we would like to know if with the technology with fruition, have you seen trends in water use through your data? And also, like, can those trends and that data, how can that help ensure that growers over time themselves become more efficient in their watering habits, and then they actually do change their behavior? Speak to that.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Gitika. Yes, to be very concrete and practical, what we are seeing in regards to water usage is that as soon as plant sensors are installed, we observe within the same year, and then it stays, less frequent water use and larger volumes per application. And overall, we observe a reduction in irrigation. Even in actually areas where we don't have sensors, once the farmers have learned that what they did in one block worked well, they are a little bit less afraid to try it while being a little bit more conservative on the block next to it. So overall, with and without sensors, we are seeing a big drop, a big decline in terms of water use, even in a year like 2020. And then regarding the second part of your question, how are we planning to use the data in regards to water usage to ensure growers to be more efficient? Essentially, it has to go through public disseminations of our results. So we share our results through various conferences. We even have set our own conference, the Vintage Conference, where we disseminate our results across the community. And one of the most appealing claim is maybe that we can say that we anticipate climate change. Typically, anticipating the effect of global warming based on what we have seen in the warmest season in California and Australia is helping southern France, northern California, to deal with global warming. But conversely, during colder season, like 2019 in California, what we learned in Bordeaux, for instance, is very helpful to reassure people and helping them manage seasons that are a little bit more erratic in their profile. And at the end of the day, what we have observed once people have been into the habit of feeding less often their plant with water, the vines are more resilient to drought. And on top of that, the quantity and the quality is maintained or even improved. So that's why now, in order to be more convincing, we are trying to link water use to other production components such as quality and yield.
That's wonderful. Thank you. So it sounds like with increasing droughts, California can continue to expect to make world's best wines, right? There's no competition. Well, thank you so much.